Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins team, this is your first off-season vidya. I mean, I guess technically the Game 7 review was the first off-season vidya, but hey, this is the first real one, and we have a slew of news to talk about. This is going to be kind of one of those informal episodes where I just want to chat about the recent stuff in the news. I know the season's not over, obviously. Some fake team is going to be named Stanley Cup champion, even though I just feel like we should be in there. Oh, it's painful, but we're going to talk about a couple things happening that are Bruins-centric, a couple signings, a couple award nominations, or really one, and then we're going to talk a little bit about what the Bruins look like going forward. I mean, just the what's next question. Very informal, just kind of for shits and gigs. For anyone wondering, this is a 47 brand Meth Bear jersey. It's a weird like cotton material. It's closer to a sweater than anything else. I recently picked this up off of a fellow on Reddit. I just dug it and I wanted it, so we got it. First bit of news is Patrice Bergeron, our glorious captain, still captain. He's not going anywhere. He has been nominated. He's one of the finalists for the Selke Trophy. In other news, water is wet. Bobby Orr is the greatest defenseman to ever live, and the color of my underwear is nude. I'm not wearing any underwear. This is obvious. This was an obvious finalist choice. He has the best numbers across the board when you take into account offense plus defense, face-off percentage, puck possession. I mean, he's crushing his own numbers. He has 4 Selkes already. This is his 11th straight nomination. He probably deserves 8 of them at this point, if we're going to be real with ourselves. But this one's a no-brainer. Obviously, the fans of the other teams, Lindholm was one of them, and then Barkov, I believe, was the other finalist. Elias Lindholm. Those fans are, yeah, our guy deserves it. I get it. And I'm sitting here going, my guy deserves it. But the advanced analytics completely back me up. You don't have an argument. And the eye test is going to be close enough for me to still go, yeah, that's the argument. This one should be a unanimous vote. We already know there's a couple people who like to overthink themselves, who like the attention, and they'll vote on it in a different way. If he doesn't win it this year, I would be shocked. People have really started to buy in more to analytics. Look, I'm not 100% analytics, no eye test guy. I'm not an all eye test, no analytics guy. I like to try to merge them. Use them as tools for each other to better understand the game. If Bergeron is not voted in as a Selke winner this year, I'll be shocked because it seems that most people are at least adopting some of the analytics in their decision making. He's got to be it. There's just no option elsewhere. Now to the bigger bit of news with him, he's still trying to take time to figure out what he wants to do next. Totally reasonable, totally understandable. He's not afraid of giving us bad news. He just doesn't want to speak out of turn. They haven't even figured out what the number for the extension would be, if he wants to play for another year, 2 years, whatever it may be. He did say no to the idea that he would play anywhere else. So at least we have that. I still personally think he comes back. I'm speaking with my heart more than my head. But my head says, man, he's real close to 1,000. Real close to 1,000 points. I'd be really surprised if he didn't come back. I don't know. That's just me. Other news. This one's a little less exciting, but still pretty exciting. Beecher signs his ELC, $925K if he's playing in the NHL. He right now would look like a 4th line, maybe 3rd line if something weird happened. Center. We were hoping he'd be better than that, but this past year and a half, 2 years, you kind of went, okay, that looks like the ceiling is a bottom 6, maybe middle 6 center. I'm wondering your opinion on this. I've been seeing people talk about how, well, he might be a better pro than he was amateur. How the fuck does that work? I just don't get it. Like, we put him in the big leagues and all of a sudden he's good? Like, it's not like he's been bad, but he was a passenger on that Michigan team. If you listen to the Short Shift Pod, we've talked about this. He was a passenger there. There's no reason to go back. He was probably going to get passed by freshmen and sophomores on that team next year. Like, he's not a guy who drives a line. He doesn't have that intensity, that ability. He's not like a Marchand. He's just not like that. And he doesn't have the skill and the hockey IQ to be like a Bergeron, who Bergeron drives his line, he does, but he does it in such an intellectual way where it's not as flashy on the ice. Whereas Marchand drives a line offensively, right? Beecher's not that kind of guy. He just isn't. But you give him a couple decent wings, he can wreak some havoc with his body. He's a big kid, hits hard. He could pan out to be a really good bottom six center. Zboril signs a 2-year extension. He is coming off of an ACL injury. That is an injury to the knee, as many of you remember. I think this is a great vote of confidence in the kid from the organization. He kind of echoed that idea, or I guess I'm echoing him. But his annual cap hit will be 1.137.500. I could say that better. $1,137,500. I think that's a great deal for a guy who potentially could be a top 4 asset. Now, it's really interesting with Zboril signing that deal, coming off this injury, and if he gets to camp and looks good right away, which obviously fingers crossed, I mean, we already know in the offseason a left side defenseman's probably getting moved. So having more competition over there is very important, especially cheap competition. More positive news. Lazar, who many of us have really enjoyed, said that there is mutual interest, both sides of the argument, want him to re-sign. The organization would like him back. He would like to be back. Here's the thing, and I think he knows this. I think the organization has known this, and both sides are just hoping that it works out in their favor. Lazar is not a $1 million player. He's worth more than that. The Bruins are kind of capped out when you consider other moves they have to be ready for and acquiring more offensive talent that they need to bring in. They can't really afford much more than a 1.2 contract for him. I think he priced himself out, which good job by him, right? Like, go find your money. I hope it works out for you. I will miss you. But if they sign him to a $2 million deal, I'm kind of going to be sitting there like, yeah, but that's $2 million on the fourth line. We really need that money right now, especially if we have guys like Foligno, $3.8 million, who's also playing on the fourth line. We could have the most expensive fourth line in the league, which would be really frustrating. But there is mutual interest there, so that's interesting. That's a situation to watch. My assumption is he's priced himself out and will not be back in a Bruins sweater, unfortunately. Another player who's likely not back in a Bruins sweater, Bleed, had some comments when we were doing, as if I was there, when they were doing interviews, when everyone's, packing up the lockers and getting out. And basically what he said, this is a direct quote, I didn't sign here to sit in the press box. Can't argue with that. Look, is Bleed some ultra-talented top 6 guy? No. But middle 6, bottom line, like that guy's an NHL player. And I mentioned this in the last video. It was either Game 6 or Game 7 that I mentioned. If I'm Bleed, I'm watching Foligno play. I'm watching Nosek get benched for half a game and going, what the fuck? Like, what am I doing wrong? Why aren't I on the ice? Like, I'm watching Foligno specifically, and I know he actually had some of his better games in this series. I think a lot of that came from the microscope that suddenly went on the bottom 6 of like, hey, can they do fucking anything? And he did some things. I'm a well-documented Foligno. I hate the signing at this point. I really liked the signing when we signed him. I was wrong. So not just to bash the guy, but I'm specifically talking about Foligno in this instance where he goes down to the ice, the offensive side of the ice, looks left, looks right, tosses the puck around, it gets intercepted because he either doesn't put enough beef on it or he literally just threw it down there because he ran out of options because he skated himself into a wall. I'm Bleed, and I'm going, hey, what the fuck? I'm sitting up here doing nothing. He never even really got a chance. I'm just shocked by it. I'm shocked by it, and I think if I were him, I wouldn't stay in a Bruins sweater. Is that an insult to the organization? Absolutely not. Sometimes there are just decisions that have to be made. And when Foligno is ahead of you, and they're not willing to bench a $3.8 million contract, look, dude, move on. No hard feelings. I wish you success. I don't think he's so good that I'm going to sit here and go, oh, God, what do we have to replace Bleed? Because Oscar Steen's sitting right there. McCulov's sitting right there, which I don't know if he's ready. McLaughlin's there. Bleed should not be back. And you know what? I think it's better for him at this point anyway. Let's talk about another guy who may or may not be here next year. He'll be here, right? He's got to be here. Grizzly needs shoulder surgery. That is so hard for my mouth to say for some reason. But there is no exact timeline on this. He may miss the beginning of next season. This does explain a lot, right? We talked about the shoulder again on the Short Shift Pod. We talked about this ad nauseum and what was affecting his play. Here's my question for you. He had a dislocated shoulder, to be exact. But here's my question for you. Does this change the way you feel about that series against the Hurricanes? Or do you feel like, yes, it made it harder for him, but the result would have been the same? I'm curious what your opinion is on that. I'm also curious about if it even matters, because now we've seen against the Islanders and against the Carolina Hurricanes, and there's an argument he wasn't incredible in the Washington series last year either. Maybe he's not playing the game the way he needs to be effective in the playoffs. Do I believe he can't? No. I do think Grizz is tremendously talented, a very good puck mover, but the size is getting in the way, and now it's starting to feel like, all right, we're building evidence that you might not be a top 4 guy in the playoffs, which would definitely be concerning at this point, because again, someone's getting moved from the left side. You like to think it's Riley, not like to, but you kind of got to assume it's Riley because he doesn't have a no-move clause. The money is about $3 million, so like that's a normal thing to move. That people would want him, but Grizz is a more valuable asset. And if you really don't think he works in the playoffs, even with the shoulder injury right now, you go, yes, we can absolutely move this guy. We'll eat the regular season minutes that he's going to play, and then come playoffs, he wasn't helping us anyway. Now, I don't think we're there. I really don't. But it's a conversation worth having, right? So give me your Grizz takes below. A few more injury notes. Marchand injured his AC joint when hit by Hathaway earlier in the season. He was having shoulder and arm issues all year. He is unsure if he needs a procedure either this year or next, so it might be a pain management kind of thing. And then he also did make the statement that I thought was interesting, worthwhile to bring up. He said that they thought if they got by Carolina that they could go to the finals. And I got to be honest, I think I said it. I totally agree. Carolina was a crazy matchup for us, an extremely difficult one that I thought we gutted out, we fought hard, and we lost, right? It happens. But you cannot tell me that you were scared of the Penguins or the Rangers. You can't tell me that. There's no way. I mean, those are teams I wanted to face going into the playoffs. And then on the other side, Tampa, Florida. Look, I think this year we could have beaten Tampa. I truly believe that. Florida would have been a menace. Who knows? But with the way their defensive structure has floundered at times in already one series, I don't know, man. I thought we had as good a shot as any, if not better than most that were left in the playoffs. I thought Carolina was just a great team, and you had to cover that first hurdle, and we didn't. So I kind of agree with that. I don't know. I thought it was a worthwhile thing to talk about. Lindholm, unsure if he needs knee surgery at this point. Again, another not quite sure. Not even sure if there's a procedure for exactly what he's got going on. They didn't give a lot of specifics, but it was injured against Detroit late in the season. He managed the pain to be able to play as much as possible in the playoffs and late in the season, of course. So a lot of dings. Look, if this sounds like, oh my God, this is a lot of surgeries and da-da-da, just remember every year we do this. At the end of every season, we're like, well, this guy needs surgery, this guy needs surgery, this guy's hurt, this guy will have to manage pain for the next couple of years, and if it gets bad, we'll need surgery. That's hockey, man. And this is another reason these are human beings. They're real people. Just remember that sometimes when you're insulting them. I mean, we talked about Marchand's injuries left and right. Everyone said he didn't look right. We knew there was going to be injury news coming out. We knew it. And here we are. You know, Lindholm, obviously something was bothering him late in the season. He took time off. Playoffs come, takes another big hit. Obviously, that was an upper body, not a lower body once you get to the playoffs. So he was still managing pain from other areas. It's tough, man. It's just tough. I almost forgot another positive. Swayman, representing the U.S. national team, in the Worlds coming up, and then Pasta will be part of the Czech team with Krejci. You might have heard of that guy, a little-known ex-NHL player, but they'll be reunited, so that'll be really fun. Hopefully we can tune in for some of those games and see what's going on. And we'll lead into a couple comments in the interviews. DeBrusk asked about if he stayed in Boston, said, and I quote, "I haven't thought about it, to be honest with you." He went on to kind of say that I got to go home and talk to my family and look at the year as a whole before I make a decision. To me, it still sounds like a guy who's gone, a guy who gets traded. Again, we could use the money right now to bring in somebody that we think could be a true top six winger on a side that he's comfortable with. DeBrusk filled in admirably. I really respect the way he finished out the season. You kind of have to. There was a lot of drama that he just came in with his head down, didn't end up getting traded at the deadline like we expected, and just fought and played the game the right way and played hard. And you could argue had some of his best moments as a Bruin in the second half of the season. So you really got to give a lot of respect to the way he played out the season. I still think he's gone. That's just personal opinion. Cassidy made the fucking comment, "We need to find a way to generate more offense." Fuck, am I so sick of hearing that. Yes, we need to generate more offense, man. No shit. And look, he talked about bringing in new personnel for it, changing up the system, the way we play, said all the right things. But this has been the problem forever, dude. And do I blame Cassidy? I really don't. Again, I was on the bandwagon of your seat is heating up when we were 500 hockey through 4 months. It's like you can't. There's too much talent on this team that you can't be on a warm seat right now as a coach if you're running 500. Right now is not the time to gun for Cassidy. It's just not, because what we saw was a very good coaching battle where he at home, who had the second change, could dominate his opposition and vice versa, and we strictly could not win a matchup because we did not have the talent. We just didn't. Now, sure, was the structure perfect at all times? No. Coaches will always make mistakes. Always. Just like players will. But I'm looking somewhere else right now, other than Cassidy. Are there things about Cassidy that I think need improvement? Yes, absolutely. I think he really did maximize this squad as much as he could, and the bottom 9 just dried up. Which leads us to the big question. So what now? What do we do now? Where does this team go this offseason? Do we blow it up? Do we try for a quick retool? The first things first. Bergeron is the biggest question. But I'm going to have this conversation assuming Bergeron comes back, right? I can't have the other conversation until I know he isn't, because I don't want to. This team, you're not ready to blow up. I don't think. I think a run-it-back strategy gets you in the playoffs again, where anything can happen. Not good enough, but that's where you start. Run it back, where do we get? It's just same thing with the Maple Leafs, except for the Maple Leafs are way younger. Where do we start? Can we run it back and make the playoffs? Yes. Yes, you can. With Bergeron. Again, operating under that assumption. How do you improve this team? Well, the reason you can't blow it up is there's too many positions that are filled that could lead to success. Think of it this way. We have 3 top 6 wingers in Pasternak, Marchand, and Hall. I don't think you can argue with me that all 3 of those guys are top 6 wingers, all right? You have your top center in Bergeron. Okay. Our second right wing is a bit of a question mark. Fair. Bottom 6, you have 3 high-end, in my opinion, bottom 6 guys. That's Coyle, that's Smith, and that's Howla. I know Smith and Howla did not have good series against the Hurricanes. I know that. But in my opinion, those are 3 high-quality bottom 6 guys. That leaves 3 gaps, though. We'll get there. Defensively, your top 3 guys of McAvoy, Lindholm, and Carlo is pretty fucking solid. You have two very much top pairing guys. One of them should be in the Norris conversation for a decade, right? And he has been. I mean, even without being a finalist, like he's top 5. He's there, right? Carlo, you can have your opinions on. Grizz is probably your 4th guy right now, just judging how this past couple weeks has gone. But he's a top 4 defenseman, in my opinion. You have Riley, you have Forbort, Clifton. Your defense, to me, Zaboral re-signed. Lohrei is still a year out. He's staying at Ohio State. But that bottom, that 6 right there, that's a good defense. That's a defense that can not carry you to a championship, but can be on a championship team. I believe that. Even if you trade out Grizz and Zaboral looks like he did before you went down with the injury. You make that trade out, you still got a defense that I think is good enough to be on a championship team. In net, you have Ullmark and Swayman. You probably believe that at least one of those is a true starting goaltender who could be good in the playoffs. I doubt there's too many arguments with me there. I think most of you lean Swayman, especially after the series we just saw. But I'm betting a few of you go, I don't know, man, Ullmark might be the guy. Think about that. So where are we now? We have DeBrusk filling in on that other top 6 right wing. I don't think that's good enough. We need a second-line center because I don't think Haula should be considered a top 6 guy. I think he was admirable. I think he performed above expectations on a championship team that's not your 2C. And then, down below, you need to hope or you need to acquire enough talent that gives you scoring pop. Steen needs to have a big boy season next year. McLaughlin needs to be a solid 4th liner. You have Nosek, who I believe stays, and I do like Nosek, even with the Game 6 fiasco. Actually, I don't remember which game. This is how bad this has gotten for me, because it's all blurring together now. I don't remember which game Nosek got benched for having it. It might have been Game 7. It might have been Game 5. Who cares? I still like Nosek. I think he's solid. That's just my personal opinion. Lazar comes back, that fills in one of those slots. Foligno needs to be gone. He just adds nothing offensively. He doesn't have the speed and the forechecking. He can't catch up to it. He's very good defensively. Frederick, there's going to be a lot of opinions about that. If he continues to improve like he has this last year, great. Awesome. If not, we got to have guys in the system that can jump up. Where I stand right now is if you think Liesel bumps into that right wing spot on the second line and he can be impactful right away, problem solved right there. You need the 2C. And I know we're going way back to trade deadline and saying, well, we need a 2C. Howle's not going to be enough. And then Howle went on a tear when he was working with Hall and Pasta. Well, guess what? When the game slows down and the neutral zone gets stuffed and it's playoff hockey, Howle crumbled. He wasn't enough. And you put him with Pasternak and Hall. They did their best to drive that line. It didn't work out. You need to be able to win a matchup. Third line, I think the Frederick Coyle-Smith line might stay together. I think they still might be good. They might be better than last year. I really believe that. I think Smith had a really rough series, man. I really don't think that's who he is as a player. But you need some fourth line guys that add a little more, and you need a real second line. You got to have it. Liesel, I'm hoping, is the answer on the right wing. I really, really am. And you need to go out and get a 2C. That's where I stand. This opinion's going to change a dozen times over the next 8 minutes. But throughout the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a lot of conversations about this. It's going to be repetitive at times. But these are conversations we want to have because we want to figure out exactly where this team stands. And right now, defensively, I like our defense. And then wings-wise, we lack a little bit in the top 6, but we still have some real talent. It's down the middle that we need something, and it's the bottom 6 that we need something. Bottom 6 is acquirable. We're a little cash dry at the moment. You need to find someone who would be interested in the Foligno contract. I think that deal might be out there, and if not, attach a fucking 4th, dude. He only has a couple years on this shit. There's got to be someone who wants that kind of guy in their locker room. Fuck, we fell for it. He's got to go. He's got to go, and I like him as a human being. But you got to move him. You got to move him. All right, guys, that does it for me. Like, comment, subscribe. Nailed it. All that good stuff. I rambled on way longer than I expected to, but I'm already missing talking bees. I wanted to chat with you guys for a little bit. Let me know what else you want to see this offseason. We're going to get to offseason grades probably next week. I don't think I'm going to wait to the end of the playoffs for that. And then we're going to do some super way too early power rankings and stuff middle of the offseason. We're going to do draft preview. We don't have a lot of draft picks, though, so I don't really know what we're doing with that. We're going to have some fun, though. Off-season, obviously, we're going to talk about the free agents, things of that nature. We're just going to have fun with it, right? I'm not going to stop making the videos. You guys have been tremendous, and a lot of you said, hey, man, a big bummer is I'm not going to get to watch these 3 or 4 times a week, which I literally can't explain how really cool that is to hear. I feel like I'm bragging right now. That's not how I mean it, but I just really appreciate all the kind words and everything. So just remember, just keep this one thing in mind. Go Bees!